live.
All right, welcome back to the castle, everybody. It's good to have you here. My name is Sh0ppo. I'm here with the one and only Sir Ivory Knight. How's it going, buddy?
It's okay. I get a little bit of a cold, but it's not COVID, as everyone likes to
Okay, yeah,
believe.
luckily.
Oh, you got a cold. Oh, it must be COVID. No. Nah,
Okay, yeah,
it's
luckily. And you got a beer?
and a beer.
I
Yes.
guess. Yeah, I gotta open it. Let's see if it plops again. Hopefully it
Oh,
does.
what brand's yours?
Aha, that did work. It's called Berg, like hill.
Okay. Is that
That's
German?
from, yep, that's from the village where it is from.
Okay. Mine's Newcastle Brown Ale. For people
Let me
that
guess, from Newcastle.
imported from England. Yeah, Newcastle,
Yep.
England. I'm a
Okay,
big
so
fan of the brown ales.
I think we should start it to the Dev Diary.
Yeah.
Dev Diary 14, which was
Or maybe we
about
should start with
opinions.
2 apologies. One
All
apology
right. Yeah.
is we had done a huge stream that was me and Sh0ppo playing against each other as France. It was like the first one to the Kingdom Advantages wins. We did it on the stream live, but then we didn't save the highlights. Now it's lost to the
That's gone.
eons. So if you weren't participating in that live stream, which most people, that's basically everybody, then yeah, you'll guys will never ever see it. It'll never be in the records, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah.
It did end with me winning. That's the only highlight, I guess. And then the other apology we have to make is, well, we
For the
wanted,
delay.
yeah, the delay
Yeah.
of this dev diary, and that was mainly on Sh0ppo, because his computer
Yeah.
just
My computer did some really weird stuff, and basically it didn't work. And now I got it up and running again, more or less, like 95%. So yeah, apologies from our side for the delay and for losing the video kind of thing. I mean, I'm not too unhappy with losing this video because I lost the game, but still, it wasn't intended to be
Yeah.
fair.
But
Yeah.
we wanted to do this dev diary last Friday, and it got pushed to this Friday.
And yeah, there was just no way to get it done without a computer. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, but now we're all set, and let's talk about what we are actually here for. The Dev Diary 14 on opinions.
Mm-hmm. We have a lovely
I wanna-
picture here showing some people talking in the court.
I wanna just give you a brief summary on what's happening and what opinions really mean for Knights of Honor 2. So in Knights of Honor we had something that was called Kingdom Power, and this will be in Knights of Honor 2 as well, but they renamed it to Crown Authority. And for Crown Authority there will be some subclasses, some social classes represented with opinions, and the social classes will be peasantry. So there will be 5. One is peasantry, nobility, clergy, army, which I think we have to talk a lot about,
Yep.
and merchants.
Yep.
And for all these classes, they can go from -10, which is really bad, to +10, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and right in the picture here we see the picture of what the class icons look like in the game as of the moment.
Oh yeah, perfect. Thank you for showing that. And yeah, as you can see from the picture, for a negative rating, some negative effects apply, and for positive numbers, you get some boosts, some nice boosts. But in general, this is more like a feature for kind of a background thing. Give it more depth, but it's not super present throughout all of the game. Yes, I think that was basically it. One last thing, maybe for clergy. The clergy opinions is a little bit more complex, since there will be different religions in the game, and for the different religions, different effects and different kind of things that you want to take care of will come into play. That's it.
Yeah, it's not the same as like say for example, merchants. Merchants are like the same effects that make merchants unhappy are the same throughout any country. Whereas for clergy, it's very religion dependent. So what makes my religion unhappy is dependent on the religion I have. So if I have Christianity, certain factors come into play. But if I'm pagan, then those factors that made Christians unhappy might not make pagans unhappy.
The thing what Christian countries really appreciate, or your clergy appreciates, is a good relation with the Pope. If you participate or even lead a crusade, for sure. If you defend Rome, if you have to, that's what they like. What they don't like, if you wage war against other Catholic kingdoms. And for the pagans, it's really more about the war itself, because it was considered that the leader, the sovereign of the pagans, has to win battles, and then he's in a favor of the gods. And if he loses a major war, or if he loses a very important battle, the common sense was maybe the gods turned away their favor, and he shouldn't be the leader anymore. So that's a bad thing to happen.
Yeah. But I think you've more or less summarized what the mechanic is and what the devs have put into the game at the moment. So I think
if there are any questions, chat, for the people that are here, if there are any questions, or if you have a different opinion, or if we didn't put out something clearly enough for you, just tell us.
Yeah.
Just tell us. We're more than happy to help you out, or start a little discussion here.
Yep. I think while we wait for any kind of comments or statements, one of the big topics that's been going on the forums was kind of started by me, I think.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the topic of whether there should be a army social class. Because, so in my viewpoint, I will just elaborate on what I was thinking when I said this. Was we're talking social classes, right? If that's what they're putting in the game, that's how they describe it with the word. Then I'm thinking, okay, in medieval age, what social classes existed? As a medieval person, what kind of hierarchies were there? And yeah, there was nobility, for sure. You know, nobles, knights, kings, queens. There's clergy, if you were someone who had a lot of money. You obviously had a lot of power. A lot of different things like that. Trade, if you were like clergy tradesmen that would go around different towns and trade goods. If you were a peasant who was working the land under your noble or your king or your lord, that's clearly a social class as well. There was guildsmen as well. So guilds were a very popular thing that a lot of... I think that's actually something in history that's not really touched on quite a lot, but guildsmen and craftsmen was a whole social class fabric in medieval culture. Now,
I mean, it was very, very important for a town, especially as a whole, as a society,
yeah,
and for the economy.
And these guilds were very tightly knit. Like, you would have to get in one, and then only after like being under a not a supervisor, but like a mentor for a certain amount of time, then you could like come into the guild, and then you would take on your own apprentice, and then the cycle kind of would repeat, and there's like a big entrained culture and all this, right? So that for sure is a social class. Now when we come to the army, it's like, okay, well, how were armies constructed back in the day? Well, back in the medieval times, it seems like most of the time an army was just a levy of peasants from the land. So if a king or lord wanted to go fight somebody, they would say, okay, we need all you people who are working my lands or my farms who are able to bear arms. I'm going to conscript you to the army. I'm going to go fight my war, because most wars back in the day were mainly fought with nobility to nobility. unless it was like a revolt or something. So a lot of these armies are just massively conscripted forces of peasants, and the bulk of your army, I would argue, is peasants. It's not a bunch of noble knights who have elite armor, horses, all this. Of course, that was in the army, and I'm not denying that. But the bulk of your army, I think, is composed of this peasant people. So is there really a social class in the army, right? I would argue that the people in your army are just peasants who normally in their most culture that they experience is from peasantry life, not from army life. Because often these armies that got conscripted would be disbanded after the war was over, and then you just go back to your peasant life. You wouldn't like stay in the army like a modern day soldier. In contrast, like modern armies, these in modern armies, our soldiers are they stay in the army life for 20 years, or they make a career out of it. That wasn't the case back in the old days, unless you were a noble or a knight.
So what would be your suggestion for the game or changes?
So yeah,
I'd say as I understand it. Now
so then
what you're
my
saying.
my suggestion was just remove this social class army, and then make it so that the nobility and the peasantry, if the nobility goes up, then that affects your army's like ability to say fight in terms of tactics, and if the peasantry happiness goes up, then that kind of represents the morale of your army, since the most of your army is composed of peasants. So if your peasants are happy with the kingdom, then the armies they make and they compose of will be happier. And if your nobility is happier, then your armies will be led in a more efficient manner. So just to decompose the army social class into the nobility and peasantry, respectively.
Okay. But what about mercenaries?
Well, I think mercenaries are very independent of this whole social class construct. The reason maybe that I touched on that a lot in the forums and in this topic was that it makes a lot of sense now that, okay, if your morale of your army is somehow tied to your social classes or how you treat the people within your kingdom, then it makes it really cool and intuitive that you might hire mercenaries who are independent of your social class happiness. So say your army sucks because you treat your peasants poorly, or you treat your army, say if we keep the army social class, you treat your army social class really badly, then you can supplement your army with mercenaries, because the mercenaries are independent of your social class happiness. And that actually makes a lot of sense historically, because historically that's why mercenaries were even hired often in the first place. In France, the French king had the Swiss Guard. Why did he have Swiss Guard in France if he's French? Because he didn't trust the French people to protect him. So,
but actually, what about some soldiers that I mean, there were some soldiers and it was their job to be a soldier, like the Swiss Guard or maybe the Royal Guard. I mean, would this apply for nobility, or would it apply for maybe a guild?
I would say
guild,
the dedicated
social class?
soldiers either come from mercenaries or from nobility. And your overall army, like if you were just take the army as a whole, without mercenaries, is composed mostly of peasants. But you do have like an army career person from the nobility, I would argue, because that would be through knights and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, we already discussed this. I think last week, or when the Dev Diary came out, and I read through all the new comments. There have been quite some comments on all this army kind of thing, and I get what you people are saying, but I think it would make sense. But my opinion, I totally get it. And I think it is a good point of view, but I think it is easier for the game to just keep an army class, because for Knights of Honor, this is so important, and it makes it much easier, which the devs want Knights of Honor to be. So I think, nevertheless, it is less accurate on from the historical background. I would say just go for the army. It makes it way easier, because otherwise you don't really know what's your army moral. Do they favor you? Do they hate you? Will they run away on a battlefield?
So I think you're right, because I think the main counter argument, which is similar to what you just said, but if I can elaborate just a little, what that I heard that I think counters what I want with the elimination of the army class, was that if you eliminate the army class and you compose it into decompose it into the nobility and the peasantry, then as a player, it might be somewhat non-intuitive or somewhat difficult to trace why your army, when it fights, is not effective. You'll be like, you'll take a battle, and then it'll be like, oh, why did I lose? And it would be because your nobility or your peasantry happiness was crap, right? But when you're playing, that might be a bit hard to kind of trace back and be like, oh, okay, I need to increase my nobility happiness and my peasantry happiness. So by having a straight modifier that strictly goes from, like, indicates the ability of your army to fight, this is it. If this is high, your army fights well. If this is low, your army fights crap. It's very direct, and it's super easy for a player to kind of trace that, to be like, okay, my army's fighting crap. Where do I see why my army's fighting crap? Oh, there's just one modifier. I need to boost this modifier somehow. I mean, I get that as a good argument, and I think that's fair. But I will also say, if I can,
you can see it on your screen, just to step in there. You can see it on the screen. If you click on army, that's like a ledger of the things that happened recently, recent events, and the effects that apply. So you click on it, and it's very easy to see, okay, I messed up in the last 2, 3, 4 kind of things, and I have to do something to maybe adjust it. And I mean, like I'm saying, that's very easy, very good gameplay, I think.
I do think, though, if you had decomposed the army into the nobility and peasantry, then I would decompose the effects that those two social classes give to your army, like I mentioned. So nobility might be like tactics and peasantry might be morale. With a single modifier such as this army, I don't see how you can, or maybe there's a way to make it so it affects your army in different ways. So maybe you can decompose the army modifier into tactics and morale, but then it seems a bit too, like, that starts to almost seem more complicated than the other way. So I think by having a single modifier, it kind of limits the flavor around an army, if I can use that word. So an army could have bad tactics or it could have bad morale, but if you just have one modifier, how do you show that? They would be just linked up. It would just be your army fights good or doesn't. And I think that's a bit narrow and not so interesting for gameplay. But I think we both actually ended up agreeing that this is probably going to be something that you need to kind of play out and test in a game to see if it does feel convoluted to separate the army into two classes, or if it feels much better to play with it as a single modifier. I think it's something that you just have to play and feel out, and I don't think there's any good, like, technical arguments that can be like, okay, this is why this is just superior. I don't think it's like that. I think it's...
I mean, that was when I read the DevDiary the first time when it came out. That was I made a statement below it in the comment sections on community.knightsofhonor.com if you want to check it out. I made the statement that I can't really tell finally what my opinion is, because I think balancing with this feature will be really important.
Yeah, because...
So how it influences you, and especially I don't want this feature, and I think this discussion was on a dev stream. I don't want this feature to be in
Spammy.
yeah, like in the center of the whole gameplay, because that's not what Knights of Honor is about. It is more in the background. And if I really want to master the game, I should take a little bit more care about opinions. And if I don't, my gameplay shouldn't get all messed up.
Yeah,
But
I
it
think
comes in,
that obviously depends on the type of strategy you choose. If you choose like a crazy strategy, it's probably going to have to be somewhat tied to these social classes. But if you just want to like play the game, you shouldn't feel like, oh my god, how is this modifier going up? How does this modifier going up? I need this going up, or otherwise the whole thing like falls apart. You know, like I agree. I think that makes for a bad experience.
Yeah, I mean, it would really suck if you're like, okay, I got a problem here, I got a problem there, opinions are getting low, I have to take care about all of those opinions, and all I want to do is conquer Europe.
Yeah.
And this can maybe prevent me from conquering Europe, and that's something that definitely shouldn't happen.
Well, maybe we should rephrase that though. Like, I think the point of these modifiers is to kind of like screw up with your gameplay a bit, but I think it needs to do it in a
little bit, yeah, only a little bit.
In a way that, yeah, like in a little bit, in a way that doesn't make you feel annoyed by them. It should be fun. It should be like, oh, cool, this event happened. How do I have to react to it? It shouldn't be, oh crap, I have to do this stupid event chain again. You know?
That was kind of interesting for me to see, because the comment section kind of exploded. If you could scroll down a little, there were a lot of comments.
Oh yeah.
And like in general, it is such a minor feature in Knights of Honor, but I think that just shows that people don't want it to be too much, or maybe they are a little bit worried that it gets too big of a stage in the game. I don't know, but in the end, I was like, at some point, what's this discussion all about? It's way too much for such a rather small feature or background feature.
I think maybe it's because of what I just said earlier, where it's people are worried that it could ruin the game. So there's a lot to talk about there, right?
Yeah.
But I think the way the devs set it up is intentionally that it's supposed to be like a fun mechanic that you kind of see in the background, and it gives your kingdom more realism in the sense of like, okay, there are people I need to make happy within my kingdom, not just without my kingdom.
Yeah.
Right?
And another good thing that they applied for this feature is, compared to Knights of Honor 1, for Kingdom Power, you just threw money at it and some piety.
Yeah.
And it won't happen here, so you have to do a little bit of management if you want to. And I think they wrote that if you don't take care of it, it will slowly improve by itself passively.
Yeah, so
like,
they said
thing.
that like statistically there's a drift to 0, but there's like deviation, that strong deviation to each end, right? So there's a lot of events that will push you off of 0.
Yeah.
But
over
a long time it drifts to 0.
I think drift to 0 would make more sense, because someone was writing and worried about that it wouldn't make sense to max out all of the social class opinions. And
yes.
like from reading, for me it was pretty clear that it won't be realistic to max it all out. Because
well, the devs mentioned that it's in their gameplay. They've said that it was extremely hard to max everyone out. You can max 1 or 2, but to get them all lined up is difficult. And I think that's probably because maybe there's like counter traits. So if one class is happy, it's likely another class kind of goes down a bit.
They brought up this example, not directly, but they said that peasantry doesn't like wars. They always hate it. They get worried. Opinion gets lower, but your nobility might appreciate a war if you wage war against someone that they don't like, that they are worried about or something. So that's where you have it. If you start a war, your nobility likes it, but your peasant won't. So that's the trade-off that is happening. Yeah. But in general, like what is your general opinion on what is your general opinion
What
on
is my
opinions?
general
Okay, that
thoughts,
sounds
opinion on opinions?
that sounds stupid, yeah. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the opinions feature?
Uh, like I said just a while ago, I think I have to play it to really have a be like, okay, I like it or I don't like it. But as of a game feature, I I think it is necessary to kind of have something like this where, like I mentioned, you worry about within your borders instead of just worrying about without your borders. So in our previous dev diaries, it was about relations with other countries. In this, it's relations within your country. And I think there needs to be, obviously, if you're dealing with countries and medieval warfare and medieval culture, obviously there's internal problems, and there needs to be some kind of feature in the game that reflects that. And I think that's what they're trying to elaborate here on. So
Mm-hmm.
whether that captures it nicely, that I need to playtest.
Yeah.
Um,
But
but I
like
think
from
this is a good step in a direction that I think the game needs.
but in general, are you all right with the 5 social classes now, or do you still say nah, it's more or less a problem,
I'm
and that you want
I
the
like
army
what it is
removed?
right now, but I really think they can decompose the army into peasantry and nobility, and make it a bit more interesting,
Yeah.
um, to balance all that and to see how that influences your army's ability to fight. Um, I think that would give the game just a little more depth in these classes and not complicate things too much. And I think they can stop kind of around that. They don't need to go super deep into it. And they, if
Yeah.
they really wanted, they could add, if when they remove the army social class, they could add a guildsman class. That's potential. I think with 5 classes, that's enough. I don't think they should keep these and add guildsman on top of it to make 6. I think if you're adding a guildsman class, you need to knock one down. And I think the biggest candidate, of course, is the army.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion was like, in general, I liked the idea. I like the whole concept. I like the 5 classes, but yeah, how it feels like in the game, that's like my concern too, which I wrote already in the comments is, yeah, I have to play it. But in general, I think the idea itself is good and thought through. So I'm happy with that. But everything else, you just have to play the game right.
When you play it, what do you think you'll be looking for? Like what indicators when you play you'll be like, oh, this is good. Oh, no, this is bad.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in general, I wouldn't care too much about the opinions. I just want them to be more or less good, like -2 to, and everything green is just fine. Um, but I wouldn't get too worried about it. I mean, if it gets too bad, like -5 or worse, then I definitely have to take action to work against it. But for the game itself, I just wanna rage war on other kingdoms, for find some allies, for some pacts and invasion plans. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, and that I think will close very quickly. But I think that brings in the last diary nicely, where it was very
Not true.
interesting, the whole defensive, or I forget how it worked again, but how you made alliances and with other countries, and that had a lot of spice and a lot of life to it, and it was interesting, and it seemed very enjoyable the way they set it up. So I think you're right to say, like, overall, you just want to make some alliances and go to war.
Yeah, and I
You don't want to worry too much about internal affairs.
and
I
I
think it's
guess,
important,
yeah,
but it
and
shouldn't
in
consume the
in
game.
some way for sure, because it helps your whole success. Um, and I definitely want to try out the spies, what they can do,
Yeah.
and how these mechanics work. Yeah.
Oh, it'd be interesting to see how spies maybe can influence social classes. So maybe you can send your spy to screw up a social class happiness in a country or
Spread some
something.
rumors, kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I think we'll call it Dev Diary. What number are we on? 14.
14. Yeah, 14.
Opinions.
Oh, holy shit! I just seen there is a second page of comments.
Yeah. I scrolled through that as well for the viewers, so they saw
I'm not
that.
sure. I'm not sure if I've read. Oh, I think I did it on my cell phone. So maybe I read through it.
Yep.
I'm not sure. But
Well,
okay,
anyways,
there is a whole lot of comments.
yeah.
That's for
If you
sure.
want to read more about the Dev Diaries, you can of course go to Knights of Honor, community.knightsofhonor.com, and find the forums there. I'll be on there. Sh0ppo will be on there, and
Yeah.
you can
And
read
there
the
is
comments, read the Dev Diaries, the way they summarize it. We tend to summarize it quicker in our 5 minute to 5 to 10 minute
Yep.
introduction. So hopefully you
Oh,
got
and yeah,
yeah.
there is the official Knights of Honor Discord where
Yeah.
some minor or sometimes even major discussions are happening. Yeah.
Okay. Sh0ppo, I'll let you.
I think we got it, or did we forget about something?
No, I think that's it. Just give us the exit dialogue.
Oh yeah. So sure. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
Stay safe,
Yep.
and for sure, let the sun always shine on you guys.
Let the sun always shine. See you guys.
See ya.